WVKR, independent radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm getting a few minutes of a late start here, but better late than never. It's 4:03 this Wednesday afternoon. Thank you to Frank for Vinyl Triumph this afternoon. And I'll be here till 6 o'clock. My name is Rita Ryan, your host of LocalMotion, here each and every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. And if it's your first time tuning into this show is all about music of the Hudson Valley, musicians that live here, those coming to perform in our area venues, as well as those coming to record in our world-class area recording studios. Show number 253 for me today in these airwaves. Yay! And my guest today will be Grammy-nominated Bruce Molsky, acclaimed master fiddler, educator, and performer. We'll talk with him momentarily. Look forward to hearing about his goings on and all the things he's got going on, including this weekend a performance with the Valley Hour. We'll talk in depth about that. What I'd like to do now is start the show off with some music from Bruce Molsky so you guys can get familiar with that. And let's start it off here with, this is a release of his called If It Ain't Here When I Get Back. And the song is called Piney Mountains. Let's take a listen right here, right now on 91.3 WVKR, independent radio, Poughkeepsie.
Sit down, buddy, we'll drink and smoke. Woman, don't you weep for me. My hands can't fiddle and my heart's been broke. You damned old Piney Mountain. Lost my fingers in the Galax mill. Buddy, sing a sad old song, and my heart got broke in the Yupine Hills. Lord, and my time ain't long. I started out to logging when I was in my prime. Woman, don't you weep for me. Hitching up the spruce to the big drag lines. You damned old Piney Mountain, where the skidders start a-bucking as the gears come down. Buddy, sing a sad old song, making God's own thunder on the new cut ground. Lord, and my time ain't long. We was fighting over nothing and drinking too hard. Woman, don't you weep for me. Riding up to camp on the flat wheel car. You damned old Piney Mountain. 30 years of hanging on the old chain brake. Buddy, sing a sad old song, laid off and paid off in 58. Lord, and my time ain't long. The skidders got sold to a scrap iron yard. Woman, don't you weep for me. I moved down Virginia when the times got hard. You damned old Piney Mountain. Lost my fingers to a steel bandsaw. Buddy, sing a sad old song. Now my fiddle just hangs untuned on the wall. Lord, and my time ain't long, and the trees have grown up on the logging road. Woman, don't you weep for me. And the wildflowers bloom where the big shays blowed. You damned old Piney Mountain. There's nothing left for me but to drink and smoke. Buddy, sing a sad old song. My hands can't fiddle and my heart's been broke. Lord, and my time ain't long.
91.3 WVKR, independent radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. Bruce Molsky, his release called If It Ain't Here When I Get Back. We just heard Piney Mountains. We've got Bruce on the line. Let me get him on air. Bruce?
Hey, hi there.
Hi there. It's working nicely. I always love when I don't disconnect guests. You know it's going to be a good show when that happens. Let me do let me do a brief introduction, please, if I may.
Please.
All right. No Depression calls Bruce Molsky an absolute master. Mark Knopfler says, Bruce is one of those great players who gets it, has all the links to the past, but is happy not to be chained to it. Performer, educator, and a recording artist who has released 7 solo albums and well over a dozen collaborations and has 2 Grammy nominations. Bruce will be performing a live stream concert this Saturday, December 5th, as part of the Valley Hour monthly concert series at Howland Cultural Center in Beacon. And with that, I welcome you back to LocalMotion, Bruce Molsky. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's nice to talk to you, Rita.
Nice to talk with you, too. Last time you were here, it was in person, and I love doing interviews when I can talk and look somebody in the eye, but during these times, unfortunately, that's not possible. So,
well, we're doing the best we can. I do miss being in that in your studio there with all those gazillions of LPs and CDs all around.
Yeah, I never take it for granted. You know, I've been here over 5 years and have done over 250 shows, Bruce, and I never take it for granted. I walk in
wonderful.
And I always smile because it's like real old school radio, you know. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Great.
But let's talk about Bruce Molsky from Bronx to Beacon. What's gone on in between?
Well, it was not a direct trip up the thruway, that's for sure.
No, that would be too easy, wouldn't it?
I started with this. Well, I started to fall in love with music when I was a little kid, and I was. I'm in my 60s. I'm not ashamed of how long I've lived.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing.
But I grew up with pop music radio, and I loved music long before I even thought about wanting to play an instrument. And just growing up in the Bronx and
what were you listening to when you were growing up there?
I was listening to, there were 2 main pop radio stations that most everybody listened to. There wasn't even really very much FM yet. It was AM radio, WABC, and I guess was WMCA was the other one. But the beauty part of radio at that time was, since it hadn't been compartmentalized into styles. You know, now we have a radio station for each style. So if you want to hear, bad light jazz, you can tune to the bad light jazz station and never hear anything else ever again. But at that time, each of those 2 radio stations played all different kinds of stuff. And I had my favorites as a kid, and I loved what we used to call R&B, which then became kind of Motown, and then became old school, and now it's old school. But I loved that, and between waiting for that, I heard people like Bob Dylan and the Beatles, and the British Invasion and all that, and so you were forced to be exposed to everything that was around. And at one point, I started listening to the folky stuff, and it bit me very hard.
Did you go down to Greenwich Village? Were you part of that scene?
When I was a teenager, I really kind of came at the tail end of that. It was really kind of waning by the time I got old enough to take the subway downtown.
And what was the first instrument you picked up? And was it in that teenage years that you picked it up, or?
I was about 11 when I started playing guitar, and it was because, and I've told this story before, but I'd love to tell it again.
Please.
The great jazz educator, Dr. Billy Taylor, ran a program in the New York City public schools for like 40 years. It was called Jazzmobile, and he and a bunch of other really, like him, high-flying, very respected artists and educators visited the New York City public schools, and they gave these presentations to the kids in the audiences. And I went to one when I was in the 5th grade, and he was a brilliant teacher, and he had certainly had one of those teachable moments with me, because that was the moment that I realized that I didn't want to just know music. I wanted to be able to play something. And I went home that day and asked my folks if they would send me for guitar lessons, and that was kind of the beginning of the end.
Acoustic? Right? Did you pick up the acoustic? Yeah.
I played a little electric later, but and I played in some rock bands and then messed around when I was a teenager. But mostly I liked fingerstyle guitar. Mm-hmm. And my sister, who's older than me, bought me a Doc Watson record when I was 12 or 13.
Nice.
And I must have spent the next 2 years trying to figure out how to play Black Mountain Rag with a flat pick. like every other folky city northern kid my age.
Right. Now, did you play music in school too?
No, no, I never took music classes in school. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why that didn't happen, but no, it was always a pastime. It was always what I did after school.
Right. And then for college, you went up to Ithaca. I
was at Cornell for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And fell in with the whole Ithaca music scene up there, which was really, really strong. That was the early 1970s. And for those of your audience who are into old-time music at all, from my generation, the Highwood String Band was a really, really influential, important band. Mm-hmm. And Walt Koken, who was one of their two fiddlers, was, kind of a hero. I hung around with them and went to the summer parties and got sucked into that scene and got sucked all the way down to a fiddle contest in Virginia in 1974, and that was when I really kind of really admitted that I found something I really loved.
And when did you pick up the fiddle? When was that?
It was that summer of 74.
Wow.
I was working on a dairy farm outside of Ithaca in Dryden, New York.
Yeah, know right where that is.
Little small dairy farm, and for a really lovely old couple, and I'm sure they're gone now. They were old then.
Right.
Willard and Juanita Downey, and I stayed in their house and worked for 14 hours a day, putting up hay and milking cows and doing all kinds of stuff I'd never done in my life. But at the end of the workday, I would take this old crummy fiddle that I had and go out of earshot, and I spent the whole summer teaching myself one fiddle tune.
Wow.
Which one? Just had this. It was an Irish tune. It was called "Farewell to Whiskey,"
mm-hmm.
Which was certainly not a self-fulfilling prophecy for me at that time. But by the end of the summer, I could kind of crank out that one tune, and that was the summer that I went to Galax and made a bunch of old-time music friends, and other musical things happened in there, and it was just a confluence of all these people I met and experiences, and I've been riding on that ever since. It's my world,
Did you also play the guitar while you were learning the fiddle, or did you just focus on fiddle?
I started off playing guitar with an old-time band, some fellas in Ithaca, mm-hmm. But I quickly jumped to the banjo and the fiddle. I always stayed serious about the guitar, but the guitar became a kind of a different room in my musical house, mm-hmm. if you will. Yeah. I always played a lot of blues and other kinds of folk music, and that diverged into West African music later. And the guitar is the instrument I'll kind of try anything on.
Right. And what did you study at Cornell?
I studied architecture and engineering for a short time. I did not graduate because I discovered that I was kind of sidelined into the music scene. You
found something you loved.
I did. It was a confusing time. The people in my generation were expected to finish what they started, and I didn't. I didn't finish the thing I started. I finished something else.
Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm. Well, you finished that because it wasn't meant to be, right? And you moved on to something that was. So Cornell, and then you did the 2 years, and then went down to North Carolina and studied really the Appalachian style music, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I bounced around a little bit, and I moved to Rockbridge County, Virginia, in 1976, and started with a bunch of other displaced city kids from other places, who wanted to be part of the scene and learn the music and visit the old folks. And I was lucky enough to meet old musicians who grew up kind of before World War I, who were really from a rural place. They were culturally completely different from me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, in a way, it's my family always kind of scratched their heads, kind of like, why do you like that stuff?
Right.
but it always kind of resonated and made a lot of sense to me.
Right.
So went down there and I did it. Ended up, I mean, I ran out of money really quickly, and of course, so I got a job in a factory because I could read blueprints and I could work on a drawing board, and I ended up. I didn't play music professionally until many years later.
Really? Did you ever take fiddle lessons, or are you completely self-taught?
I taught myself to play. I never really had any lessons.
Wow. And this was like pre-internet, obviously, so there was no videos to watch and study or anything like that. Nothing. No,
that's why we all of us wanted to hang out together so we could, have these kind of shared experiences. It was the only way to get it, and it took committing yourself to making a lifestyle out of it, And when I moved to Virginia, I rented a little log cabin for $20 a month and froze my cookies off for the first winter because I'd almost cut my leg off with a chainsaw. I mean, I had a lot to learn.
Yeah. Whoa, I guess so.
but looking back, I mean, back at the time, it was a challenge. Now looking back on it, it's kind of hilarious.
Stepping stones, though, right?
Yeah. And I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. They were, anybody that was around the scene at that time, we all, as you say, there was no internet. You couldn't open up a Google search and type Eck Robertson 1922 Brilliancy Medley Fiddle track. Mm-hmm. Now it's so incredibly accessible, which is a really great thing.
Yeah.
It changes kind of how you perceive the value of all that music that was recorded and collected by archivists and the huge amount of work that went to just preserving. That's part of what I wanted. That's what if I want to accomplish anything as a musician is to just kind of try and further a tradition in my own way, and I love it. Mm-hmm. I love that other people love it.
Right, absolutely. And where did your travels take you after Virginia, Bruce?
Well, I lived in Virginia for a few years. I bounced around the South for a long, long time, and I ended up in Roanoke for a short time, and then way down, and I was in Atlanta, and I met my wife Audrey at the Mount Airy, North Carolina Fiddlers Convention in 1980.
Is she a musician too?
She's a great guitar player, and she's on a bunch of my CDs.
Yeah.
The earlier ones, and she's still right here with me after 40 years.
That's beautiful.
The best thing that ever happened to me. She puts up with all my craziness.
Absolutely,
but
love hearing that.
We both love music so much, and so she came and joined me in '81, and we stayed in Atlanta for quite a few years. And I worked as an engineer and played my music on the side. Just kept the music. It was always kind of threatening to overcome my life, and I always kind of held it at bay. We moved up to the D.C. area, also to Virginia, to Metro D.C., and lived there for many years. And there were just, it was all within weekend travel distance to all those festivals.
And when did you put the job down, the secure job, and said, okay, I'm doing this music full time now?
I walked away from a pretty secure living in 1997. It got to the point where I would come in. I took so many Fridays off to go to festivals and play gigs that if I came in on a Friday to the engineering firm I worked in, everybody would say, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
So, but that was great too. Every industry that people work in, I learned that lesson is a microcosm, and if you're lucky, there's a community within. And even working in the engineering trades in the D.C. area, we all kind of knew each other, and people give each other energy.
Right.
With music, it's kind of a level beyond that because it's art and because it requires a level of communication that goes beyond negotiating a building contract.
Right.
It's when you play music, you've got your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah, you do.
And we all learn to navigate that, and I love to play. I love to, if I can move people with a piece of music, that's like everything to me.
Yeah. How does the writing come to you? Writing music, is it constant? Is it periodically, or how does that work? I'm
really not that much of a writer. Rita. I've written some tunes. I've been since since COVID and the lockdown and the pandemic and being at home all the time, I have been writing. But that's a newish thing to me. I've always been an arranger, and I have, I'm not afraid to take a piece of music and change it to suit myself, but changing bits of melody or phrasing or rhythmic kinds of things, or changing a set of chords, or just constructing something else out of something old.
Right.
And that's what I love. And that's a creative process too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So for the past 23 years, this is your world. Tell me about the first time you went into a recording studio. Do you remember that experience?
I think the first recording that I ever made was part of a compilation. I think I got this right, around 1984. And the banjo player, old-time banjo player Bob Carlin, who I played with for a long time, made a recording for Rounder Records called "Banging and Sawing," and it was Bob playing banjo with a variety of different fiddlers joining him for different tracks. And if anybody listening out there is familiar with some of the old-time crowd, Judy Hyman, who actually still lives in Ithaca, played with the Horseflies and with her husband Jeff Klaus. Brad Leftwich, who is a really, really fine fiddler. I think James Bryan, the fiddler from Alabama's on. There was a really nice collection of stuff.
Nice.
And we went in the studio. Bob and I did in '84, and I still remember it because it was a new experience to me.
Yeah.
The engineer was scurrying around setting up things that I couldn't identify.
Where was the studio located?
It was in Philadelphia.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then since then, you've recorded quite a few solo albums and have collaborated with a whole bunch as well. Tell me about your collaboration with your Norwegian friend.
Oh my gosh! Well, I've worked with a few Scandinavian musicians. That's been another path that I've taken that I really love, and met another great community of people. I made a recording with a woman named Ambjørg Lien, who's a highly respected player on the Norwegian hardingfele, a hardanger fiddle, which is the national instrument. It's a violin with sympathetic strings.
Wow! And say it again, harding.
It's a hardanger. Or in Norwegian, it's hardingfele, which means hardanger is a region and fele means fiddle. So, but they're beautiful sounding instruments, and she's a real master. So we made a recording together and did some touring. It's called Waltz with Me, and a lot of it is stuff that she wrote. But I've worked with her. Gosh, I've worked with another great player named Anand Egeland, who's an educator and a hardanger player, and done some touring with him, and Mikael Marin from the group of Essen, who has they've been coming to the U.S. for years and years. They're a Swedish group.
Yeah.
And
Andy Irvine too, right?
That's another group. That's Mosaic. I like my collaborations, but Andy Irvine and Donald Lunny, and two other fellows, Nicola Parov and Rens van der Zalm. The five of us have Mosaic, and that's another group that collaborates between different kind of cultural styles and finds we try to find common ground between old time and Eastern European and Dutch and Irish and Scottish music.
So you guys still that collaboration still exists, Mosaic.
We put out a CD. We haven't toured together in quite a while because we all live all over the place. It's just hard to do it. But we put out a CD just about a year ago, and we still stay in touch, and we talk about the next tour. And it's still bubbling.
Good. Good, as
Yeah,
it should be.
Yeah.
And then you were a guest on Mark Knopfler's CD, Tracker.
Yeah.
How'd you meet him?
That was exciting. I met him because I worked with a show called the Transatlantic Sessions for quite a number of years, and a couple of it was if anybody has ever been to the Celtic Connections Festival in Glasgow that happens every January, it's a really great festival. This is a kind of the main concerts of that 3-week festival. It's a cast of probably 15 people in the house band, plus different special guests every year, and it was kind of led by Jerry Douglas and Allie Bain, who I also play in another trio with. But yeah, two of the members of the kind of house band that I played in, John McCusker and Michael McGoldrick, joined. They hooked up with Mark at some point and ended up playing in his band, and they're still with him. It's been probably 12 or 15 years now. But apparently they were riding around in the bus one day, and one of them pulled out one of my CDs and put it on there, and Mark Knopfler said, "Who's that?" And the next thing I knew, he invited me to play some banjo and fiddle and guitar on Tracker, and that was really exciting.
Oh, how much fun! That's so great.
Yeah,
that's so great. Yeah.
Plus, he's a really nice guy, and I you kind of awestruck. I mean, I listened to Dire Straits just like everybody else did.
Oh yeah.
And to I'm not a starstruck kind of person, but meeting him, I kind of took a deep breath and I realized early on that he was just another human being who'd done a really great thing. Yeah. It was really an honor to work with him.
Oh, that's so great, and so out of your realm. Typically his music. So it's yeah. I love when the styles just kind of blend together, and that works so well. So
yeah.
It
worked. It did work.
And Bruce, you're also a visiting scholar at Berklee College of Music.
Yeah, for 11 years now. That's one of the greatest lights in my life, is working with all these young students. We have an American roots music program that was kind of visualized and envisioned, as you'd say, and founded by Matt Glazer, who I've known for a long, long time. And Matt was the head of the strings department at Berklee, the chair for many years. And then he decided that there was a kind of a vacuum in the Berklee offerings, and probably every other music school around, where music of the first half of the 20th century should be.
Right. Yeah.
And he's a real scholar himself on early jazz and even classical music and country music and blues. And he created this program and invited me into it, and it's fantastic. We have students coming through from all these different backgrounds.
Right.
And I regularly work with students that are, Berklee started as a jazz school.
Yep.
So I get all these jazzers and classical players and Eastern European players, and we have a really high quotient of Middle Eastern players from Arabic countries and Israel, and it's mind-blowing. And they all come and they want to learn about American folk music, and that's fine with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to pass that education on. Now, you guys must obviously be virtual now?
We are. When the pandemic started, we went online back in March.
Yep.
Right at the time that I took my trio, the Mountain Drifters, to start a tour in Scandinavia, and we came back the next day.
Oh.
But Berklee's been online ever since, and it's going really well. As best as can be expected. There's nothing like meeting in person.
Right. But, my daughter's a violin major, right? So it's hard being a musician online right now, but you make the absolute best of it as you can, for sure. And and music is a reflection of the world that we live in, and the world changed, and the music has to change to accommodate that. I mean, it's just I teach we have what's called an ensemble program at Berklee. It's a lot of different, and I lead a group of students in old time music, and we used to get together in a room and teach them tunes and play things together and talk about history, and now we can't play together, right?
Because the speed of light, because the internet has a delay in it.
Yes.
And so it's turned into a recording session, and so now we learn the tunes, and they each record their parts, and they send it to me, and I edit it together into a track, and we get to be the band that never played together. It sounds pretty good.
It does. Oh, but you know what? It'll hopefully change, and this. Hopefully, there's a light at the end of the tunnel where music will open back up again, because I think it's being hardest hit by this whole pandemic for the arts are just getting hit so hard. And
it's so hard. People don't even. I mean, because art. To me, and not to sound self-serving, but art is a necessary food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to say it's an essential service, but it sure is something that keeps our spirits up and our emotions from tanking in a situation like this.
Absolutely, feeds your soul, if anything. That's for sure. That's for sure.
And I mean, there are a lot of more immediate needs, and musicians are really rising to that occasion too. And if we have a chance to talk about some of the stuff I'm doing,
let's do that. I was going to segue into that. I know this Saturday, of course, you have the Valley Hour coming up, and right in your hometown there where you're living now. What a beautiful building you're going in.
Oh, the Howland Center in Beacon, where I live, it used to be the public library, I think, here years ago. It's a listed historic building, and a couple of musicians who I have just gotten to know, Annalise and Ryan,
love them.
They're hosting this series, and I'm just going to get up there, and there are three of us. There's another group called Whispering Tree,
yes,
and we're each going to do
fantastic.
We're each going to do a short set, and that's this Friday. Really excited about that.
Oh, is it Friday?
No, I'm sorry. No. Look at the calendar. Wrong.
Saturday. Okay, because I've been saying it's Saturday, so then I needed to backtrack.
And when I told you before we got on the air, I had no idea what I was doing, and there's a good example. So I'm going to be with them.
And tickets you can purchase at thevalleyhour.com, just if people are interested. And I think that's good if you're not available to watch the actual concert. Your ticket is good for a week afterwards, so you can watch the concert anytime. And again, that's for Bruce Molsky this Saturday, thevalleyhour.com, so you can get the tickets there. So, and then tell us what you have going on December 12th. December
12th, we have a really great organization here in the Hudson Valley. It's the food bank of the Hudson Valley, and we all have our kind of pet's the wrong word. We all have kind of organizations and things that mean a lot to us, and to me, people eating is a big thing, and we have a lot of food insecurity in the Hudson Valley because of the state of the economy and the pandemic. And I started doing, actually before the pandemic, I started doing some local fundraisers for various food banks. The food bank of the Hudson Valley is great. So on the 12th, I'm going to be playing a concert, and all the proceeds, donations that we receive on the web are going to go straight to them.
And people go onto your website, Bruce, to view that?
Actually, it's being hosted through a wonderful outfit called the Quarantine Happy Hour.
Ah, okay.
It's a Facebook page, and if you go up on Facebook and just put in Quarantine Happy Hour, they actually do a show every night. They're not all benefits, but it's all kind of old time and roots music, and it's a nice scene. But that'll be 8:30 Eastern time on the 12th. If you go to Quarantine Happy Hour page, and there'll be a button for donating, and I just want people to know how important it is. When you see the lines of cars queuing up to pick up food at some of these sites, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
The amazing thing about food banks, and I'll stop going on. I'm just really high on food banks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the donations of food that the food banks receive, it's amazing, but they can serve something like 4 meals on a $1 donation.
Wow.
Because most of the money just goes into logistics and moving things around and organizing and the basic expenses. So I think it's probably true for most food banks. A small donation goes a long, long way. And if people want to put what little they've got towards something that really makes an impact, that food banks are a really, really great thing.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it really is. And the community, I mean, you see them in the towns here, and like you say, it's really heartbreaking to see how many people are in need. People that never have been before are now in need. And to wonder where your next meal's going to come from, if you haven't been in that situation, it's scary. It's got
to be terrifying.
Yeah.
And,
So thank you for taking that on, Bruce, because
absolutely,
yeah, we need something like that for sure.
We need that. So that's a big thing that's happening.
And you starting 2021 off in a really good way. About the Cafe Lena School of Music. Tell us what you're doing in January.
Yeah, I've been teaching. Cafe Lena in Saratoga Springs is, I think, one of the oldest, if not the oldest, coffee houses in the country. Mm-hmm. And they built it out. They've renovated. They've got a beautiful performance space, which of course they can only use virtually now. But they also had a educational program, music program for kids. And I hooked up with them not long ago, and we kind of talked about having an adult program. Started that, I don't know, 6-8 months ago now. And what I've been doing is 4-week, once-a-week classes, one in fiddle and one in banjo. And it's an hour and a half once a week for anybody who really is comfortable learning short phrases of music by ear. We plow through a couple of old-time tunes every week. We talk about history a little bit. Some of the same folks have been coming back time and time again, so we got a nice little community. It all takes place on Zoom. And if anybody wants to find out more information about that, go to the Cafe Lena website, and you can get all the info and the costs and all that.
And that's on Saturday afternoon, starting the 9th of January. Also, it's listed on your website as well, brucemolsky.com. So people can find out about that and all the good stuff that you have going on. What a nice way to start out January.
Well, yeah, let's kick in the new year with some positive things, and for sure. Be meeting in 3 dimensions is nice. I'll settle for 2 dimensions now.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely, Bruce. Absolutely. So, yeah, but this work that you're doing with the food bank, thank you so much. I always appreciate when people step up to the plate with things like that, because that's just one of your basic human needs. And it's hard to believe that so many people, and there's such food insecurity just right here in our area. You don't even have to turn the TV on. You can just take a walk down any main street and see it yourself. So you can tell. It's cool.
Well, you just gave me the title of something to do with food banks. Stepping up to the plate.
Oh, literally too. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, yeah, there you go. You got something there, Bruce. I love that. I love it. I want to hear it when it comes out. So the Valley Hour, of course, that's going on, and you'll be there live, but obviously this is a live stream concert, so I just always like to make sure people don't actually show up at the Howland Cultural Center. This is a live stream concert from the comfort of your home on whatever device you want to watch it. You can go to thevalleyhour.com, buy tickets. Very inexpensive. I can't go price because we're a non-commercial radio station, so I can't talk about pricing, but I can certainly tell you it's very inexpensive, and you're getting some beautiful entertainment. And if you are unavailable to watch that concert Saturday, buy the ticket, and the concert is good for the week. So anytime you have an hour, you can just check it out. So yeah, Bruce, it's good stuff. So Bruce, what am I going to play? What music of yours am I going to play here? I've got all 3 CDs sitting out, and when I let you go, I'm going to start loading them up, and give me like 2 or 3 tracks at least.
Okay. Well, let's start with the Mountain Drifters. Mm-hmm. My trio, who I miss very much, we've all kind of dispersed. 2 younger, really, really incredible musicians. They're the future of this music, really. Allison DeGroot on banjo and Stash Weisslauch on guitar.
Oh, nice.
And let's play something from our most recent CD called "Closing the Gap."
Oh, okay.
Let's play "The Little Carpenter."
Oh, nice. Number 3. I got that.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you, we'll play, if you want to play something that's kind of fast and furious, you can play Gray Eagle from that one as well.
Okay, I will do that as well.
One is a song and one is a tune. So
okay, cool. Give me one more, and then
okay. All right, I'll go back to my my solo CD.
If it ain't here when you get back, yep.
Yeah, play the first track, "Wreck of the Dandenong." That's a Australian shipwreck song, just fiddle and voice.
Beautiful. I will do that. Thank you. I always love my guests to give me the music to play because it's like so much fun to do that. So, as you should be picking out. So, Bruce, I thank you for your time here today, and people have lots of great opportunities to see you online, to either take a workshop with you in January or just watch you perform this Saturday with the Valley Hour, or the Facebook, the Quarantine Happy Hour on Saturday, December 12th. And if people can't remember that, they're driving or they're out and about, just go to brucemolsky.com, and that information is always listed on there. We're going to finish out. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we spend a lot of time on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and if anybody, you can reach me through the website, but just if you go to Facebook/Bruce Molsky, I'll pop up there too. I'm kind of everywhere.
Yeah, good. Well, we're glad that you are, and we're lucky to have you here in the Hudson Valley. So keep on making the beautiful music. You make the world a better place with all your gorgeous music. Bruce, I thank you for your time. Always honored to speak with you, and look forward to seeing you again at some point. And right now, we're just going to use the rest of the hour to play Bruce Molsky here.
Great. Thank you, Rita.
You're
great
welcome.
to talk to you.
Great talking with you.
All
Thank
right.
you again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye.
All right, listeners, it's 4:44. That was Bruce Molsky, master fiddler, educator, banjo player, and just all-around terrific person. BruceMolsky.com. Let's go play some of his music. We'll start it off with The Little Carpenter right here, right now on 91.3 WVKR.
I'll tell you a new song that's lately been made about a little carpenter. He courted up their maid. He courted her, he loved her as his life. Oftentimes he'd asked her if she would be his wife. Traveling, accorded in the dark. I can't fancy you, old man, you look so old and grim. Oh, my little carpenter, oh, what's become of him? And on come the blacksmith, it was the other day. He gave to me his handkerchief, or so the people say. He gave to me his gold ring to talk with him again. Oh, my little carpenter, oh, what's become of him? Oh, wild and furious blew the blast, and the clouds were hanging round, when the Dandenong from Melbourne sailed to Newcastle port was bound. She had 83 poor souls on board. Through the storm she cleaved her way. Well, it's sad to relate, her terrible fate was just off Jarvis Bay. And I dream of you, I dream of sleep, I dream of being warm. But through the night I have to sail to brave this raging storm. While steering through the briny wave, a propelling shaft gave way, and the waters they came crashing in, which filled us with dismay. All hands on board did all they could, till at length all hope was gone, and they hoisted a signal of distress on board of the Dandenong. It was not long until the bark, a brisk and lively crew, came bearing down, and the captain cried, "We'll see what we can do." Came bearing down with might and main, in spite of land a wave. They did all they could, the sailors would, those precious lives to save. And I dream of you, I dream of sleep, I dream While some in boats they tried to reach that kind and friendly bar, and numbers of their lives were saved, but the night came on pitch dark. What mortal man then could do more when the storm increased on strong, and the rest now sleep in the briny deep along with the Dandenong. And I dream of you, I dream of sleep, I dream of coming home, but a mile of water buries me beneath this raging foam. And I dream of you, I dream of sleep, I dream of being warm, but through the night I have to sail to brave this raging storm.
91.3 WVKR, independent radio, Poughkeepsie, New York, the master fiddler, Bruce Molsky. We just heard Wreck of the Dandenong, and this is off his release titled If It Ain't Here When I Get Back, released in 2013. I want to thank Bruce for his time on the show today. If you missed part of our interview or discussion, you can always check in later on. I'll be uploading it on YouTube, Rita Ryan LocalMotion channel, or the Facebook LocalMotion channel as well. And we also heard two other tracks from Bruce Molsky with Molsky's Mountain Drifters off Closing the Gap. We heard Gray Eagle, and we heard The Little Carpenter. Great trio here, the Molsky's Mountain Drifters. So check out brucemolsky.com. Keep up with all the great things you can hear him do, and especially this Saturday's live stream concert at the Howland Cultural Center. You can get tickets at thevalleyhour.com. And again, if you're forgetting any of this, just keep it simple and go to Bruce Molsky's website. Pretty simple to do. It is 4:56. You are tuned into Local Motion here on 91.3 WVKR. I'm your host, Rita Ryan, each and every Wednesday here with you from 4 to 6 p.m. Now, this Saturday at the Valley Hour, there will be two performers. So you'll have Bruce Molsky, and you will also have a group called The Whispering Tree. So I'm going to play a track by them now, and you can just go get your tickets online and check out both these great musicians that will be performing. Let's take a listen right now to The Whispering Tree right here on 91.3 WVKR.
Rien ne pousse dans ce jardin, rien ne pousse plus maintenant. Rien ne pousse dans ce jardin, les oiseaux se sont envolés.
I had a dream. There were fires burning over scorched earth. Black smoke was pouring, and the hand that fed poured forth unending bounty has turned away, turned and left us wanting. And nothing's growing in the garden, nothing's growing there today, nothing's growing in the garden. All the birds have flown away. little hands sticky, and the green, green earth poured forth impossible riches. Now we stand on parched land, now we stand forsaken. Nothing's growing in the garden, nothing's growing there today. Nothing's growing in the garden, all the birds have flown away. Restless and seething, the world was fat and full, filled to overflowing. Nothing's growing in the garden, nothing's growing there today. Nothing's growing in the garden, all the birds have flown away. Nothing's growing in the garden, nothing's growing there today. Nothing's growing in the garden, all the birds have flown away. Rien ne pousse dans ce jardin, rien ne pousse plus maintenant. Rien ne pousse dans ce jardin, les oiseaux se sont envolés.
.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York, 5:01 p.m. We just heard The Whispering Tree off their release called Invisible Forces, and we heard Garden. The group Whispering Tree is comprised of Eleanor Kleiner on vocals and piano, as well as Ellie Brangbor, and he's guitar, bass, banjo, and vocals. The two of them together make up the group called The Whispering Tree. They will also be part of the Valley Hour live stream concert this Saturday. And you can get tickets at thevalleyhour.com, or you can go to Howland Cultural Center website, and they will be doing the live stream concert there along with Bruce Molsky on Saturday. So you're basically seeing two bands, two groups, two performers, and really three, because Ryan and Annalise are also going to perform. So you really get to see three different musicians play for an hour. And you can buy a ticket online at thevalleyhour.com. And if you can't tune in Saturday at 8 o'clock, that ticket, that stream will be good for a whole week. So anytime over the next week, you'll be able to check them out. Again, The Whispering Tree and Bruce Molsky, the Valley Hour this weekend, hosted by our friends Annalise and Ryan. And they do this monthly live stream concert series. I think this is their third or fourth concert. And they've gotten some great performers. Last month was Cindy Cashdollar along with Andy Stack. And they're having a lot of fun doing this. So I can't wait to see who their guests in January are going to be, because they're getting some good ones and it's a lot of fun. So I hope you can support live music virtually. This is the way to do it now. If you can't go out and see the live music, performing it virtually is great. And boy, does it lift your spirits to sit there for an hour and just be able to see performers do their thing and perform. So hope you get a chance to check out the Valley Hour, and tickets available on their website, valleyhour.com. So while we're winding down 2020, I only have a couple more shows. I'm going to take a couple of weeks to just rejuvenate and, take some time off of work, take some time off of doing the show. So I will be doing a show the next 2 Wednesdays, and then I'll be off for 2 Wednesdays. And while this year is winding down, and we all know how horrific it's been with this horrific pandemic, there's one light that is happening right now that has brought such joy to so many people in the Hudson Valley, including myself. It's brought tears to my eyes. Mr. Ian Flanagan has been a Saugerties resident for his whole life, born and raised in Saugerties. He's been on LocalMotion, this show, for, 3 or 4 times. I've always loved his voice. Anyone that's ever heard him has loved his voice. So the guy goes down to Nashville, sometime this year. He thinks he's doing an open mic. And there's talent scouts for NBC's The Voice, the national show, there in the audience. And they invited Ian to be a contestant on The Voice. Now, if you're not familiar with the show, you go through a bunch of contestants. I don't know how many, but a bunch. And there's 4 judges, and they either want you to be part of it and this competition or not. So Ian has been on what we call Team Blake. So he's being coached by Blake Shelton. And last night, Monday night, the live performances started. So leading up to Monday night, it's all been taped, and judges have been choosing the people. Starting Monday night, this past Monday, the audience, the U.S. citizens that are watching this can vote. So Ian performed. He was one of 17 performers. It was down to 17. So Monday night, 17 performers performed. People voted, and you could vote on NBC, the Voice app, and a couple of other different ways. Last night, Tuesday night, on The Voice on NBC, they had the elimination. And of course, it's live, so you don't know who's going to stay until that particular moment. Well, lo and behold, our very own Ian Flanagan made it through. He's now in the top 9 on The Voice. You can tune in again on Monday. The Voice is on NBC, Mondays and Tuesdays. I think they're going to be live performances for now, but don't quote me on that. And Ian he made it into the top 9, which is extraordinary. And it is, if you follow him on social media, he's got, the Facebook page, the Instagram. It is such a light and it's such a joy, and he's giving so much happiness to people just because we know him. When something like this happens to somebody, it doesn't get better when good things happen to good people. I tell you that, at least, especially this year. So I'm going to play a track by Ian now. And this is what he sang on national TV Monday night on The Voice. And America voted him to stay as one of 9 contestants. And after I play this, I'm going to play another track that was recorded on Ian's last EP. So turn the speakers up no matter what you're doing. Follow Ian Flanagan on Facebook, on Instagram, and check this guy out if you haven't heard him already. Let's take a listen right now to Ian.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the evening shadows and stars appear and there's no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for 1,000,000 years. make you feel my love. Yes, I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I would never do you wrong. Yes, I've known it from the moment that we met. There's no doubt in my mind where you belong. The storms are raging on the rolling sea, and on the highway of regret. The winds of change are blowing wild and free. It ain't nothing like me yet. I can make you happy and make your dreams come true. There is nothing I would not do. Walk to the ends of the earth for you, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love. Darling, don't you know by now, you built the home out of this old house. Any four walls and a roof above can block the rain, but only you bring the sun. So bring it on home to me. I'll give you all of my love, all my love. Every day, every day, every day, any way you want. When your body feels tired and weak, from your head down to the soles of your feet, don't let this world get you down onto your knees. Pick up your heavy heart, bring it on home, bring it home to me.
91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. Ian Flanagan. If that doesn't put those two songs, put a smile on your face, I don't know what will. Ian Flanagan, we just heard from his release, Give Me Color, Bring It On Home. And we started this hour off with his version of Make You Feel My Love, which of course was written by Bob Dylan and done for his 1997 Time Out of Mind album. It was also made very famous by Adele in 2008. Billy Joel did a version of it as well. And now Ian Flanagan has done a version of it also. He's getting hundreds of thousands of views. I think you can check all of this out on YouTube. If you're not on social media, you can check out YouTube and look at Ian Flanagan and The Voice and all of that. And it's just really, really great to see what's happening to this young man from Saugerties, New York, who's been living in an RV for the past year, driving around the country with his fiancée and their daughter and trying to make something work. And something's working now because he's on the national spotlight. He's one of 9 contestants left on The Voice. That's it. 9. If you feel so inclined, you can purchase his music at ianflanaganmusic.com. His Facebook page, of course, also Ian Flanagan Music, as well as Instagram. And again, Ian's website, ianflanaganmusic.com. He's got a couple of releases out. He's a great, great songwriter. On The Voice, he's been doing covers, but to hear him write his own songs is truly the treat. So I hope you give some time to looking further into this young gentleman's music who's hopefully making it big here in the national spotlight. I personally am thrilled for him and so proud of him. And he's been on the show a couple of times, and it's always been great. And I could go on and on, but instead I'm going to keep playing some music here, which is what you're all tuned in for. So it's 5:16, and this weekend there'll be some incidental music while you are having dinner at the Falcon. So let's start off with the group that's be playing there Friday night and also be celebrating a birthday. But we'll talk more about that after we listen to these 2 tracks. Let's start it off right now with The Restless Age, 91.3 WVKR.
I told you once, I told you twice, I told you about 1,000 times that we could be here 40 nights and we would never see eye to eye. I know I'm the bad guy, 'cause you're trying to come around, and I'm still looking solid ground where the world is waiting. Maybe if you change your mind, you can leave it behind without the colors fading. Twice I told you about 1,000 times. You can flip a coin and play your life, but you can never do the same with mine. I know I'm the bad guy, and I can live with it for now. I'm still looking for a good way out. I'm still looking for a good way out.
I would do everything I thought I should. Good for you and good for me. What happened next I really did not see. One day I bought myself a book. I told myself I'd learn to cook. Cook for you and cook for me. What happened next I really did not